Hi, I'm Michael Bamfield, and in this video we're talking about key changes. So by the end of this video you should know the difference between a pivot modulation and a direct modulation. Let's start with direct modulation because that's the easiest one to understand. So direct modulation happens when a piece of music suddenly changes key in a very clear place. There's no ambiguity about the key change. So this will happen a lot in pop songs for the last chorus, just to give a burst of energy at the end. That's the effect it has. It's just like a little gentle slap in the face to the listener, just to wake them up and re-energize them. It happens in songs like Man in a Mirror by Michael Jackson and My Heart Will Go On, or I Want to Dance with Somebody. Pop songs like that it's very common with. So I'll play the chords for Man in a Mirror and see if you can hear how it's just a bunch of chords in one key, a bunch of chords in another key, and there's no overlap in that key change. And it gives this sunburst of energy. You expect it to go back down to G, but instead, G sharp. Direct modulation doesn't always have to happen in this cliche kind of way at the end of a song on the last chorus. It can also happen within a song as well. So songs like Enter Sandman by Metallica, My Generation, You Really Got Me, Good Vibrations, all those tunes have key changes and direct modulations within the sections of the song. So I'll play the one from Enter Sandman and see if you can hear as it moves from the key of E up to F sharp, it's going up a tone. See if you can hear that sense of forward motion it gives. And then as it goes back down from F sharp to E, it kind of crashes back down and sounds a little bit more sinister. Now for pivot modulation. For a key change to be regarded as a pivot modulation, two things need to happen. One, it needs to be a clear key change from one key to another. So no borrowed chords or anything. It needs to sound resolved on chord 1 of the original key. And then after the key change, it needs to sound resolved on chord 1 of the new key. So no borrowed chords or anything. The second thing it needs to be regarded as a pivot modulation is a pivot chord. So a pivot chord is a chord that fits both keys but could be regarded as having different chord functions in relation to each of those keys. So for example, E minor, the chord E minor, could be thought of as the 3 chord of C major, 1, 2, 3, but it could also be thought of as the 2 chord in D major, 1, 2. So it occurs in both keys. So if you have a chord sequence in the key of C and then an E minor as your pivot chord, and then it changes key to the key of D, then that could be regarded as a pivot modulation, and E minor would be the pivot chord. So for I Walk the Line, it starts in the key of A. I'll play through the song naming the chord functions as I go, and I'll highlight the pivot chords as it changes key. So it starts off in the key of A on the 1 chord, 1, 4, 1, 5, but hang on, that 5 chord is actually functioning as the 1 chord of the next key as well. This is the pivot chord, the E, because the B7 is next, and that doesn't occur in the key of A major. It resolves back down to the E. And that's resolved now, so we are in the key of E, that's the 1 chord, so that was a pivot modulation. Okay, it goes into the first verse in this same key. So 5, 1, 5, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 4. But hang on, that 4 chord doesn't sound like a 4 anymore because it stayed on it so long. It's actually functioning as a 1 now. And the rest of the next verse will treat it like that. It's going to go to a 5, 1, 5, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 4, but actually it's not a 4, it's a 1. So this is the pivot chord now. And now we're in the key of D. There it goes, 5, 1, 5, 1. I'll just play them as single strums now, you get the idea. It's 4, 1, 5, 1, and then goes to a 5 as the pivot chord. So it's not always the 4 chord as the pivot chord, it's using the 5 chord of the original key now. That's going to become the 1 chord of the next key. So it goes 5, 1, 5, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, and then 5. So when that 5 chord, it hangs on it for a long time, and it actually becomes the 1 chord of the next key. So we're back in E. 5, 1, 5, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1 for the final key, and it ends there. So I hope you stayed with me through that and you now understand how pivot modulation is used throughout that song. We've gone through 3 different keys. It started in A, then moved to the key of E, then moved back to the key of A, moved to the key of D, then back to the key of A, into the key of E to finish. Okay, it's a genius song and brilliant way to move through changes using pivot modulation there, and keeps interest throughout the song. That's the effect. It's not as dramatic as a direct modulation. It doesn't smack you in the face in the same way, but it doesn't need to, because it's happening so often and through every verse. It would be a bit overkill if you were doing a direct modulation with those. It happens quite subtly. That's the effect of pivot modulation. It's a bit more mature and a bit more subtle. I hope you found this video interesting. If you did, click like, maybe think about subscribing to the channel for more videos like this, and I hope to see you on another one.